The most confident person you know is probably wrong about something important, and they have absolutely no idea. Not because they're lying, not because they're arrogant, but because their brain is missing the exact tool it would need to notice the gap. This is the Dunning Kruger effect, and once you understand it, you'll never trust confidence the same way again. In 1999, two psychologists at Cornell University, David Dunning and Justin Kruger, got curious about something strange. They kept noticing that the people who were worst at certain tasks seemed weirdly convinced they were doing great, not slightly overconfident, wildly, almost comically overconfident. So they decided to test it properly. They ran a series of studies where participants took tests in grammar, logic, and humor. After each test, they asked every participant to guess two things: how many questions they got right, and how they thought they ranked compared to everyone else in the room. Here's where it got interesting. The participants who scored in the bottom 25%, the actual worst performers in the entire group, consistently guessed they had scored above average. On average, they estimated they had outperformed roughly 60% of the other participants. They weren't in the top 60%, they were in the bottom 12%. That is not a small miscalculation. That is a person standing at the bottom of the mountain, convinced they're standing at the summit. Here's the detail almost nobody talks about, and it's the part that actually explains everything. The top performers, the people who scored highest on the tests, made the opposite mistake. They slightly underestimated themselves. The people who were best at the task assumed the test must have been easy for everyone, so they guessed they were only slightly above average. Meanwhile, the people who were worst at the task had no way of knowing it was hard because they didn't have the skill required to see their own mistakes. If this is making sense so far, feel free to like the video, it genuinely helps. Here is the actual mechanism, and it's almost poetic in how cruel it is. The same skills you need to be good at something are the same skills you need to recognize that you're bad at something. Dunning and Kruger called this a dual burden. If you don't understand grammar, you don't just write badly, you also lose the ability to detect bad grammar, including your own. If you don't understand logic, you can't spot a logical flaw, including the one in your own argument. Incompetence doesn't just produce bad results, it removes the exact lens a person would need to see those results clearly. You can't know what you don't know, and worse, you often can't know that you don't know it. This explains something people experience constantly but rarely name. The person in a meeting who speaks with total certainty about a topic they clearly haven't researched. The new hire 3 weeks into a job who already thinks they understand it better than people who've been there for a decade. The guy online who reads one article and argues with an actual expert like they're equals. None of them are lying. They genuinely believe it. Their brain has no internal alarm telling them otherwise, because the alarm system itself requires the very expertise they don't have. But here's the twist that makes this so much more interesting than dumb people are overconfident, which is the lazy, wrong way most people repeat this study online. Dunning and Kruger ran the experiment again, but this time they trained the low-scoring participants. They taught them the actual skills the test required. Once their competence went up, something remarkable happened. Their self-assessment became accurate. Learning didn't just make them better at the task, it gave them back the ability to see themselves clearly. The overconfidence wasn't a personality flaw. It was a temporary blindness caused by a specific gap in specific knowledge, and it disappeared the moment that gap closed. This also explains the other half of the curve, the part that ruins a lot of talented people's lives. As competence increases, confidence often takes a dip before it recovers. This is sometimes called the valley of despair. The beginner feels great because they don't know enough to see the mountain of things they haven't learned yet. Then they learn a little more and suddenly they can see how much they don't know, and their confidence crashes even as their actual skill keeps climbing. This is why so many genuinely capable people feel like frauds. Doctors early in residency, engineers a year into the job, writers who've actually improved dramatically but feel worse about their work than they did as beginners. Their confidence and their competence are temporarily moving in opposite directions, and it feels unbearable while it's happening. So what do you actually do with this? The instinct is to look around at other people and diagnose them. That guy's a Dunning Kruger case. That coworker doesn't know what he doesn't know. But the real use of this isn't a weapon for judging other people, it's a mirror. The uncomfortable implication of this research is that you cannot fully trust your own confidence either. The subject where you feel the most certain, the opinion you'd defend without hesitation, the skill you'd rate yourself highest on, that is exactly the place this effect hides best, because confidence on its own was never proof of competence. It was just a feeling, and feelings don't check their own homework. The fix isn't self-doubt. Constant self-doubt is its own trap. The fix is staying curious about the exact things you feel most sure about. Ask the question that might expose a gap. Let someone who knows more correct you in public without flinching. Treat your own certainty as a signal to look closer, not a reason to stop looking. The smartest people in every field aren't the ones who never feel confident. They're the ones who stayed suspicious of that confidence long enough to keep learning past it. The mountain doesn't care how sure you feel standing at the bottom of it. It only cares whether you're willing to find out how far up it actually goes.